As I look through the posts and think back over the reading that we had for this last week, I notice that all my well-laid plans have sort of fallen to pieces, and I need to get more structured and keep myself in line with how I had set out to structure myself, especially with my calendar and especially with controlling my addiction to electronics. It's crowding into my family time. That's what it's really killing. I really picked up on a post in the discussion thread by Dana today where she was just talking about nearly quitting, and I don't know if I got quite to that point, but how she just had to come to a place where she realized she could only do so much, and that's something that really has drawn me back because I've been so focused on perfection in starting out with this doctorate, even though I know better, and I went into it thinking I wouldn't be like that, but I find myself wanting to perform well because I see the other students. They're a little intimidating, a lot of them. They seem to have a lot more intellectual prowess than I do, and so I guess I just want to do such a good job and impress people, which none of that's really of God, which is what we've been studying in our organizational track as well. This last week was the perfect storm for me. This has been a traumatic year at our church. My close friend Kevin Murphy, who was a key employee, he was our youth pastor. He was extremely well loved, a huge legacy, had touched hundreds of lives, a very giving, fatherly sort of man. And he was younger. He was 52, and he was the father of six. Their youngest is only not even 1 year old. He died of cancer in February, and it's been a real hard road all year. Anyway, this last week we were redoing the youth room. It needed a lot of repair for this coming season, and a paint day was scheduled for this last Saturday, and I was really the only one available to prep for painting, which meant a lot of spackling. And as you may remember, one of the things I said I was going to have to cut out of my schedule in order to prepare for the doctoral program was facility maintenance work. As a result, that consumed my week, that and a few other duties, and I really put off and procrastinated doctoral duties, and that has really caught up with me, and it's caught up with me in stress over this weekend, and it's shown me that I really must stick to my schedule. I have to force myself to be more structured, to fit myself into the schedule I have for myself on iCal. I've made a new determination that at the beginning of every workday, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at that reminders list that I was talking about in my How Do You Come video, and I'm going to reorganize it in order of priority for that day, throw out some things, each day that don't have to be done, put them on a later list or something. But then I'm going to look at that list and I'm going to ask this question: what on this list can I delegate to someone else? I constantly find myself taking more on myself than what I should anyway. But even though I believe in delegation very strongly, and believe in getting it off my plate and other people doing it. And then the other question I'm going to ask when I look at this reminders list is, what on this list does not fit into my personal three things? And I've mentioned before, Andy Stanley says, only do what only you can do. My three things are visioneer, communicator, and team builder in my role as lead pastor. So I have those fairly well defined, I think, and I recite them every morning when I come in. But I must keep my reminders to those. They have to fit in those three things. Otherwise, I need to punt them to somebody or get them off my list. I haven't been doing very well at all on holding myself to no computer and no phones in the evening. I was working on church budgeting things last night on my laptop during our family reading time. When we were all together in the living room, we sit around for about a half hour and read, my wife and I and our two little girls. Together, my girls asked me to come tuck them in, and the ritual is normally I read them a chapter of the Bible. I pray with them, kiss them, tuck them in, tickle them, and stuff like that. I was too caught up in what I was doing to do any of that. I didn't read the Bible to them. I didn't pray with them. Didn't kiss them. Didn't tuck them in. Same with Gabriel. He usually doesn't read with us. He's specially abled, but I didn't tuck him either in. And when I finally went to bed later, I saw all three of their sweet little faces. They were deep in sleep. And I just shook my head and realized what a big fool I'd been, what a big mistake I had done, because they all went to sleep without any of that, and I'd missed my opportunity. and I don't want that to happen anymore. I need to get back into doing exactly what I've set out to do on my iCal. So I plan to go to the library this very evening to get some books on Winston Churchill. He's somebody I'd like to read up on. And I want to have books like that to read during our family reading time at night, so that I'm not doing church work. I'm not even reading a good doctoral study work. I've come to the realization I must, as I read chapters 4 and 5, in managing stress and burnout and how important these strategies are, I have to compartmentalize. It's a good guy thing, I know, but I have to compartmentalize much better so that my life looks more like my iCal schedule. I've got to focus on God and exercise in the early morning block. Keep them in boxes. God and exercise in the early morning block, doctoral stuff in the morning block, church stuff in the afternoon block, and then be present, relaxed, and focused for the family stuff in the evening block. Just shut it off. Maybe go hardcore and turn off my phone and leave my computer over at the church. I think this will fix my problem with procrastination in research and in writing. As I look through Machia, I'm having trouble getting into Machia, honestly. I don't know if anybody else is, but I am. I've been reading it and looking through it. Some of it feels like, honestly, like a lot of repeat stuff for me because, Evangelical taught me well for self-care, and being an INTJ, I'm very introspective anyway. So I'm constantly going over this stuff. My gifting is in pastoring and leadership. About a year ago, I went through a Tom Patterson life plan, and that was a pretty intensive process and very, very helpful. And one of the things that came out of that process was this statement, which is a little corny, but I'm getting more and more comfortable with it. This statement, personalized to me, is I strategically solve problems by risking it all on faith. And I do see that as a core strength, a core talent, a core gifting for me. I don't feel like I have a lot of core giftings, honestly. I feel like they're pretty few, but I love, as an INTJ, I love to think things through, turn them over, strategize, find the best way, think long term, think holistically, put it all together, put all the pieces together. And it plays out in leisure. Like, I enjoy playing strategy war games. I like reading war stories, World War II and Revolutionary War in particular. But I strategically solve problems by risking it all on faith. I've mentioned before, I am passionate, extremely passionate about finding the keys to unlock the hearts of cold post-Christian New Englanders. That's heavy on my heart. I'm eager to find a way through where the New England church is having trouble even maintaining or even growing in a very authentic way at all. Few churches up here are growing at all, and the ones that are, might be argued, are a little inauthentic, honestly. So that's the whole reason I've come to this program, because that's what excited me about the organizational track. It excited me about how Evangelical does things. So I'm very passionate about that, and I feel God calling it to me very strongly, and I feel like He might use little old me in some way to help others by really thinking through how we can redo church here in New England for His glory.